Hello everyone, this is Katish here. In this video, I'm going to go through the AQA Combined Science Biology Paper 2 Higher Tier from 2023. Question number 3 is on the topic of ecology. Figure 1 shows a river next to a field. Describe a method to investigate how the distance from the river affects the number of different plant species in the field. You should explain how to use a transect in your method. Now, what is a transect and how do you actually use it? That's what they're actually asking. So let's say you're trying to measure the different types of plant species in the river. I'm going to use this diagram to explain it. So what you would do is from the edge of the river, you would measure certain points. So let me say, let's say I choose this point here. And from this point onwards, I use a string or a rope to actually mark a certain point, draw a straight line. And along this line, every 1 meter, I'm going to take measurements equally. So the question is asking, describe a method to investigate how the distance from the river. So this is closest to the river and this is furthest from the river. How the distance from the river affects the number of different plant species. So, and I could repeat it again at different points, again, equally spaced out at 3 different points. Right? Now, these lines are what we call transect lines. Now, what do we actually do in these different points? We use what is called a quadrat. See if this go. A quadrat is usually a metal frame. It comes in different sizes. The most common one that is used is 0.5 meters by 0.5 meters. And what you would do is place each of these quadrats at these points along the line. And inside you would count the number of different plants species that is inside there. That is how you would use a quadrat. So if I draw it in different colors, you can actually count the different types of plants. So you should explain how to use a transect in your method. So first point, right, here's a sample answer. Make a transect line using a string at right angles to the river's edge. Place quadrat at measured intervals along the transect. Count the different number of plant species in each quadrat at each distance. Repeat for 2 more transects. That is basically a method. Now, I've added calculate a mean value for each species as an extension. You don't really need that point, but that's how you would use a transect to find the different number of plant species in the field. 3.2. Students used a valid method to investigate how the distance from the river affects the number of different plant species in the field. Here on the y-axis, you have different number of plant species. And on the x-axis, the distance from the river. So at 1 meter, you can see the mean value is this cross. Now, the lowest number of plant species found was 1. And the biggest number of plant species found was 4. So this is at let's say at 3 different points or more than that. So, and at 2 meters, the average was somewhere between 3.7. So this is the lowest mean value and that's the highest. Right? Now, these lines that you are seeing are what we call error bars. So plus or minus, let me pick this one which is fairly, so the mean value is 6. Plus or minus 1 plant species. So that's the range. Here, it doesn't have to be equal as well. Anyway, let's get to the next part. What is shown by the data in figure 2? Fewer different species are always recorded near the river. Fewer different species are always recorded near the river. That's impossible to say because there's less species recorded near the river. One, the number of maximum is 4. Here at 2 meters, the lowest is also 2. At 3 meters is 2, 4 meters is also 2. So that's not correct. The mean value students can be more certain about is 5 meters from the river. So the mean value students can be more certain about is 5 meters from the river. That is true because at 5 meters here, the mean value is right in the middle. So maximum it is either plus or minus 1. So that's not a big change in the mean value from the values that you're getting. So the error bar is actually the shortest. That's what they actually mean. So that's correct. The number of species recorded 6 meters from the river is anomalous. At 6 meters, we don't really know that because we've only got one set of data. And it can't be anomalous because it's something that's randomly occurring. Plants are growing according to nature's way. Cows walk on the ground near the river more than they walk on the ground further from the river. Which is an abiotic factor that could affect the number of different plant species found near the river? So abiotic factors are non-living. Microorganisms near the roots are living, so that's abiotic. Moisture levels is abiotic. Yeah. They only want one box. Oxygen concentration in the air. Oxygen concentration is oxygen is abiotic, but throughout the world, the concentration of oxygen doesn't actually change much. It remains constant. So it's not going to affect that much. Primary consumers, they are living things. So that's just 2. Question 3.4. Increasing number of cows are being farmed across the world. Explain the environmental implications of increased number of cows being farmed. What are the environmental implications of increased number of cows being farmed? Well, if you increase the number of cows being farmed, they need land, which leads to deforestation. Right? So the best way of actually answering a 6-mark question is actually just to plan ahead. So let's write a couple of points. Deforestation. So cows need land. So deforestation is a problem. They release carbon dioxide because they're breathing, and they release also methane, which is a greenhouse gas. That leads to global warming. And the consequences of global warming is flooding. What else? Increased number of cows are being farmed across the farm. Explain the environmental implications of increased number of cows being farmed. So less plants, plant growth, because cows trampling. Sorry, my handwriting is not that great here. So trampling because they're walking over plants, and they're more being eaten as well. And all the cow feces, the waste, feces can lead to eutrophication if it winds up in the river. So that should be okay. So let me show you a model answer. Okay. So the consequences of increased number of cows. There will be fewer cows due to more trampling. there will be fewer plants, not cows, fewer plants due to more trampling and due to more plants being eaten by the cows. Fewer plants, which means there will be less photosynthesis, which means there will be more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. More cows will release carbon dioxide from respiration and methane to the atmosphere. And more cow feces will enter streams, rivers, and water courses, and also leads to more deforestation to provide farmland for grazing, because the land has to come from somewhere, and usually it's just the forest land that is being burnt so that grass can grow in there for the cows to graze. What are the environmental implications? Well, carbon dioxide and methane are greenhouse gases which contributes to global warming, resulting in flooding, loss of habitat, and extreme weather changes. Eutrophication can occur as a result of cow feces entering rivers and streams and watercourses. Deforestation results in reduced biodiversity and the availability of land for farming crops for food. Now, plan the answer, and as long as you can write a couple of key points, you should walk away with at least 3 of the 6 marks. Right? Best is actually to try and aim for 3 to 6 marks, and you should get most of it, not just simply leave it. Anyway, that's the end of question number 3, and I will see you in question number 4.